Welcome, everybody. My name is Jordan Thompson, and this is my podcast. I had this podcast a few years ago, and I was in a very dark place, and I had a very deep addiction to drugs, and I ended up stopping doing this podcast. I'm starting it back up because it was a passion that I had to have something like this of my own, where I could have conversation with people and learn something about myself and the world at large. I'm currently in recovery. I am almost 3 months clean. I've been in recovery for about a year and a half. I've been in treatment for over a year. Excuse me. And this is going to be how my show is now. I'm going to have conversations with people I find interesting, and it's going to be funny, hopefully. My goal is to both entertain and help provide a service for people who are struggling. And what I'd like to do is just be a beacon of hope for somebody who may be going through something difficult in their life, and be able to maybe provide some tools, whether it's boundaries or just talking about anything from mindfulness, meditations, yoga, whatever it is. And on top of that, we're going to talk about things that may offend some people or trigger some people. I am a beacon of free speech as well. You're welcome to say anything on my podcast when I'm interviewing. I do not censor you. My first guest that I'm having on is going to be Dave Landau. I recorded something with him recently, and I'm going to present it to you guys now. So enjoy. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that you just take everything one day at a time, all right? All right. Welcome, everybody, to SpitBallin with JT. This is my first podcast back, and I have Dave Landau joining me from the Cumia Show with Dave Landau and Anthony Cumia. So Dave lives in Detroit. He's a comedian, and you're also in recovery, right?
Yes, yeah. I live between New York and Detroit, and I've been in recovery for about I've been in there for 11 years, but I've been sober for 6. So yeah, since my last relapse, that was real bad.
Yeah, and I understand that. I've had 2 relapses myself since being in treatment, and I've been in recovery for almost 2 years now.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm nowhere near 2 years sober. My last relapse I'm almost at the 90-day mark, so I'm getting there slowly but
That's
surely.
all right, though. Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. So we've just had the election happen.
Yes.
We're in Canada, so this is just prime time TV time for us, right? We just get to watch the mayhem happen, and I love it.
Right.
And it's a fiasco right now. We were talking right before.
You're near Toronto, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. It's been interesting to watch things play out. I actually I watched most of the stream that you and Anthony did, and it was interesting to see how angry Nick DiPaolo got progressively throughout the show.
Yeah, I think he's a Trump guy. I'm not sure, but yeah,
I'm almost positive.
Yeah. I love Nick, but yeah, he definitely was getting more and more angry the more and more information that got fed through.
Yes. And Tina was amazing. That was my first time actually seeing that woman, and she was phenomenal.
Yeah, she was really funny. I've never met her before, so that was the first time
Yeah.
I've been on a screen with her. So I was just sort of watching them because I'm in Detroit this week and they're in New York.
Yeah.
I was just sort of sitting back watching the dynamic and all of it unfold.
Yeah,
What news are you getting in, I guess, Canada? Because I guess if you talk about any unbiased news source, it would have to be a different country.
Yeah,
No,
well,
same
this is the
deal.
thing. No. Same deal here. We have like all of our news is super left wing. I don't like we have and Gavin used to work for them. The only one that I know is like that's right leaning is the Rebel Media. And
Right.
Gavin used to work with them. But that's it for right wing stuff. There's not much. The
Rebel's
government
not.
runs.
Oh, really? Rebel's not mainstream
Yeah.
though, is it? It's like internet.
No. Yeah, it's internet. And that's the
Okay.
only type of and they're not really unbiased either. They're at least they tell you that they're right wing at least, and that's the most I can ask for.
Yeah, that's true, which is rare that anybody wants to admit that.
Exactly, right? You got Fox News over there, which is mainstream at least. And then
Yeah.
I was huge on Alex Jones back in the day when Alex Jones wasn't who he is now,
Right.
because he's grown into this giant internet meme that is forever going to be in the zeitgeist now.
Yeah, it went from being taken very seriously to the actual tinfoil hat photo becoming a meme for everyone to see.
Yeah.
But I do find it fascinating that he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which he's been on 1,000 times, and
Yeah.
everyone's making a big deal out of it, like it's something new and crazy and terrible that he was in
No.
studio. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. No, he's been there so many times, and like that's the thing. Him and Rogan go back like well over a decade at this point. He's known him since the '90s.
Oh
Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, so it makes no sense for people to get angry at Rogan, and Rogan's made it very well known that he doesn't believe in any of the nonsense that Alex Jones spouts off, but Alex Jones does have a valid point every now and again. That's the point with Alex.
Yes, he does. The tinfoil hat guy sometimes is right.
Yeah, that's
You
the
just
scary
have
part.
to, yeah, and it's happening more than it used to, which is the really scary part.
Yeah, like I'm this is the thing. I like because I was in treatment and I was gone for a year and I had no contact with family for 6 months and actually 6 months periods where I had no contact with family. And the only information that we had was a half hour of news at 6 o'clock every day. And that
Oh,
was it.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Like no internet, no phones, nothing.
Was it
So
local?
when I went it, yeah, this is in Toronto. It's a pretty strict program. Like it was started by a priest. It's
Oh,
very
wow.
militaristic boot camp, work therapy. I was shoveling pig shit on my Saturday mornings.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it was one of those
That's
places.
well, that's actually some of the best places to go. The closer to prison it is, the more effective it is. You start
Well,
making,
yeah, there's that.
yeah, you send people to, Malibu treatment centers and all that stuff. You're not going to make it. It's just a nice vacation.
I did both. That's the thing. I did a year there, and then I did another 30 days at like the Malibu style place where it was expensive as hell for 30 days. But
Yes.
I got both things there. Anyway, so when I went in, the world was a different place. Like, and being away for that long and then coming back out and reintroducing myself to society. And I come out, it's COVID. Um, the world is falling apart because the riots, and now
Yes.
the election has gone to shit. It's just like, holy fuck. What
Yeah,
did I come out to?
I don't know how you relapsed. It's just not.
No, there's no way it wasn't bound to happen at all.
I was so worried for people in recovery at the beginning of this too, because I saw the same thing. I'm
Yeah,
like, how do you be new in recovery and handle any of this? And
exactly
yeah,
right.
it is. It's the whole world coming apart. Everybody's angry. Nobody has a conversation anymore. You just talk at each
Nope.
other. It's just even
Yeah.
today when I'm looking at two people arguing, it's like fuck you, Karen, and it's like eat a dick, fag, and you're like, why can't you guys just say your opinion without once there's name calling involved at this point, you're not
Oh
making
yeah.
a point. You're not doing
It's
anything. You're not saying anything. It's just anger and you're just rooting for your team. And that's all I'm seeing now
exactly.
is a bunch of people rooting for somebody who nobody has your best interest at heart. That's what I find so
Exactly.
incredible about it. This isn't about you. This is about somebody else's power. Like it's just all
Yeah.
nuts to me to think that just being furious towards another group of people is somehow going to make things better.
Yeah, and you know what? I saw the change in the tides when I started doing stand up. Because when I started doing stand up, it was 2014, 2015, and it was completely different. I was an open micer, and I'm still an open micer. I'm nothing at this point with stand up. I haven't done it in years at this point. But that being said, I saw the tide change with the Trump election in 2016. You couldn't say anything. You would be banned from venues. You would be banned from shows here in Toronto if you even touched anything that was right wing. You couldn't really say anything because if you got branded as that guy, guess what? When there's a show, you're not going to be the guy they invite. They're going to be like, well, no, because this guy's a Trump guy. They don't want anything to do with you. And I interviewed Mike Ward
I
and
love
had a
Mike. He's a good friend of
conversation with,
mine. Yeah.
yes, he is such, and people don't realize how important what happened to Mike was, especially
Right.
for us not so much you because you can tour, like, you know what I mean? But a person like
No,
me
I
who
get
is
it though
going
on
up
a
there.
global scale how important that
Oh
was.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially
And
for what he
people,
said.
yeah, it was
All he said is,
and
"Why
for
isn't the
them,
kid dead yet?" I mean, I don't know if you can say
yeah.
this because it's just okay. Well,
No, yeah.
he won a show because he was dying, and why is he still alive and touring? Like that's all
Yeah.
he said. And
That's
then he ended
basically it. Yeah.
right, and $40,000 later, and going against some
Actually,
sort of speech laws.
well, and this is the thing, and I talked to Mike, and Mike told me about another case that was down in Vancouver, and this was an open mic show, and there was two lesbians in the front row making out, and
Yeah,
the host told them, like, listen, can you knock it off? It's a little distracting, and they continued to do it throughout the show, and then he just called them out and just like, well, now I know why you two both are dykes. Because no man will put up with this bullshit. Basically, was what they were
right.
saying,
Which
and
is
they ended up doing I'm not delivering it nearly as funny as it probably was in that moment because I could imagine.
no, but it is a thing that I don't care who you are. If you're sitting up front of a club
No,
making out with each other, it's rude. It's rude to the
and
entire
super,
audience.
and the comedian who's on stage, right? And that's what his point was. And he gets a $10,000 fine, and it's like, you're an open micer. How are you paying a $10,000 fine? That's impossible.
Right, and I remember seeing the story where it was basically shoved here in America as a comedian ruthlessly attacked two lesbians in the front row for being
Exactly.
lesbians, and then you
Yeah.
read into it, and it's
No.
like because I've had people making out in the front row where it's like this isn't a drive-in in like 1960. Like go somewhere
Yeah.
else. Like everyone's staring at you, no one's looking up. It's just it's impolite. It's all you can really say.
Well,
And then
that's the thing.
they can infringe on what you're doing, but the second that you want to infringe on that, which is again, it's not a place where that happens. Like nobody's going there
No,
for that.
no,
It's completely acceptable to
no.
go, could you stop doing that?
And that's the thing, right? They made it seem like he was being unreasonable, which that's not the case at all. He was being more than patient with them. When you actually do the research into the story and you find out what actually happened, you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Really?
Yeah,
Really?
this is
Come on.
everything. The world exists in this gray area that everyone just refuses to see right now, and I don't
Yeah,
I guess you can't push. I don't even want to say it's an agenda, but whatever it is, clickbait. I guess it is agenda. Whatever you need to drive home to favor your side, you just
yeah,
have to find the right words because they know most people aren't reading past the headline. So as long as
not
you
at all.
push it, it's fine. And if you read past any headline, you go, "Oh, this is completely not only out of context, but it's made up. It's just false to get you to look at this."
Oh yeah, and like that whole incident with Mike and with that comedian out in Vancouver was a huge catalyst in me kind of stepping back and saying, you know what, maybe like I'll wait for the tide to turn the other way because it eventually has to go back. You know what I mean? It can't stay on this side forever. It eventually, the pendulum swings the other way, right? And it scared the shit out of me. And then on top of that, I went back full blown into my addiction at that point, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, meh.
Yeah, the
Like I
pendulum
didn't care,
just
but
yeah, the wrong pendulum swung the wrong way. I
exactly.
wish my therapist is telling me to like try to have a better view of the world where I want everything to be kind and I look at stuff like it's not designed to screw me over. And
Hmm.
I really have such a problem with that because everything is ran by human beings. Human beings are extremely flawed. I don't see anything ran by any institution I've ever been a part of has fucked me, for lack of a better term. So
Yeah.
I really have a severe problem just going, well, this will be a great day and everybody I meet will be a super person and I bet you the pendulum will swing back and everybody will be fine. In reality, I'm kind of like, no, I think it's stuck and getting worse. I just think people are
Yeah.
so angry and it's coming out now at a point that if it sounds so corny, but every book that you read and the foundation of any sort of peaceful society is love, which can't exist now unless you, like I said, lockstep right into what everybody else wants, unless you all believe the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to live in a world where you all believe the same thing? You'd never learn anything.
No, nothing will ever progress. Like they talk, like the people talk about being progressive, but that's not what I see that's happening. It's these things seem like we're regressing in society where it comes to taking away our freedom of speech and imposing us, like people losing their jobs, for instance,
Yeah.
saying something on Twitter 15 years ago when Twitter first started. Like it
Hmm.
makes no sense. Like it makes none whatsoever. It's like, okay, you're gonna go back on somebody's timeline when chances are they never even thought that Twitter would be what they are today. Because I don't think people even realize how much Twitter controls what is going on in social media between Twitter and Facebook, and because they own everything. Like they control the entire. I don't know what the word is, but the
Well,
momentum
they,
of society gets funneled through there.
yeah, I mean, they control the information that you're getting, and it's
Yeah.
not being denied because they're saying it was like the Hunter Biden video
Yes. Yes.
where I even did a parody like online a couple days ago where I just had Coke all over my face and my nose is bleeding and I was just maybe Hunter Biden telling you to vote Biden. And a lot of people also took that as political, where it's like, no, it's not even political. It's just
No.
like I did one where I was Mario from Super Mario, where I'm just bleeding because it was my first time back in New York and somebody immediately attacked me because they attacked Rick Moranis. It's not a political
Oh my
statement.
god.
It's just what
No.
happens, and I'm making a
Yeah.
joke out of it. It's like Rick Moranis
Yeah.
is like everyone in my age group. Everybody loved Rick Moranis growing up. The guy was in New York
Yes.
for 10 minutes and a dude punched him in the face. It's insane. And
Holy
like
fuck.
and Twitter
Oh my
won't let you
god.
see this hunter tape, won't let you get this information. And they're telling you when you try to find out what's going on that they're not allowing you to see certain information. So either go back to where we don't find out anything that's going on and it's back to like the JFK
Yeah.
assassination, we'll never know, or give us all the details.
Yeah. Don't hide. Don't talk to us like we're toddlers. That's what I
Right.
see happening. They're doing that. They're treating everybody with kid gloves now. And that's a big problem with why the left is the way they are. Right. And it goes back to, well, everybody gets a trophy. You know what I mean? It's that
Well,
kind of mentality.
it's worked, and that was almost like it almost had become like a hacky premise that it's a bad thing. But when you realize that this entire generation of people won't do anything unless they're given a reward, that's a
Oh yeah.
terrifying thing. And I shouldn't say the entire generation, but the people that are
No.
out attacking, rioting, screaming, throwing fits. These are people who don't know how to do anything in life. They don't know how to be self sufficient. It's why when they
No.
took over 6 blocks in Seattle, they couldn't survive with an open
It turned to
Starbucks.
shit.
Yeah, in a grocery store. And then they
Yeah.
then they started their own police force, and then like 8 minutes later, they shot 2 unarmed black kids. It's like it's just it takes away all these things take away your ability to be self-sufficient. And you
Yeah.
look at this, and none of these people are. None of them are self-sufficient. They need
No.
I even a lot of people want to vote Trump out. I'm surprised because they need him to survive. Without the boogeyman, without something to hate, they lose an identity.
Yeah.
And I'm not
And they're already cannibalizing themselves. So imagine what happens when they have that person in powers, Biden. You think they're gonna let Biden be president? No.
no, you
No.
elected Kamala
No.
and whoever she
Yeah,
plugs in. And the world's
exactly.
watching us on a stage. And it's like, this is the first time. Look, Trump is obnoxious. Trump is divisive. I get it. Like, I see it, and I'm a
Yeah.
centrist. But at the same time, he's one of in my opinion, he's one of the first people to really pull the rug out from under American politics. And you just watched both sides go like, we got to get this back. Like, well, we're in wait. We need money and control and everything. It's just everyone panicked, and you're now seeing the result.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't know, I just find it so terrifying right now, because I think we're just going to go back to the old way of politics and left to in this sort of cold civil war that, occasionally lights up.
Yeah. Well, like the other thing I want to talk to you about is like, so when I went into treatment and then I came out, I I was living in a sober house and I watched the QAnon video,
Okay.
the rise of the cabal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit. That video was a catalyst for my last relapse. Like I was just holy fuck. I felt hopeless.
Yep.
Though they lost me at the end with the JFK Jr. shit, but like the good lead up to that was all the stuff that's going on with the torturing and molestation of children and all this people have known this stuff for generations. And I know it sounds nuts when you say it, but it's scary how much it's become just common knowledge to people. And it doesn't, they don't fucking care at all
They
that this
don't.
is.
And then you joke about it or something. Like, I'll do it on stage, or a time when I was almost picked up as a kid, I have a story about, and people look at you like you're doing something bad, where it's like, no, I'm just trying to call attention to the fact that we're ignoring this. Like, I realize the Catholic Church has lost, a few shekels in the last couple of years, but
Yeah.
realistically, the Vatican City is like the wealthiest city, and like
Oh
it's
yeah.
just paved with gold. It doesn't
Oh
matter.
yeah.
And they've hid
It's
child abuse cases. I realized that when I watched the movie Spotlight. And
yes, yes.
and
Great film.
yeah, really good. And my wife was pregnant at the time, and we sort of were deciding, hey, what religion should we raise them? I was raised Catholic, and we watched Spotlight,
Mhm.
and then they showed the cities at the end before the credits of where it had happened.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's this tiny lettering, and the lists, it's longer than the movie.
It's,
How long it goes on?
yes, it's longer than the credits.
Yeah, it's insane. And you just watch it and we're like,
Yeah.
well, probably not how we were raised. And I see it and it's like, and I still think about that, of the fear that I have and the other stuff that I carry around and the punishment I have
Hmm.
just for being a human. And that bothers me. And it's not, and I'm not anti-religious. Like, I'm pro God. I'm just anti all of this. So like it starts there. And then you bring in
Yeah,
Hollywood and all these other people. And you're right, it's become so common, and sexual abuse has become so common that it's become
yeah,
manipulated. And that's the worst part, is when now in a world where everybody's a victim, the people who aren't truly victims can call it out because it doesn't hurt as much. So then all of a sudden that
yeah.
just gums up the works, and we're supposed to have sympathy for people who were like, look, I was sucking Aziz Ansari's dick and he was just sending the signals that I didn't want to be there. It's like, okay, well, what helps is if you don't put his dick in your mouth.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah, that's usually a helpful thing that says I'm not interested. But when I don't know, you go to dinner with him, back to his house, blow him. Usually
Yeah.
that's it's a firm okay.
Yeah.
A
If if
hard.
if you've been penetrated in some way, shape, or form, whether it's your mouth, your ass, or your pussy, guess what?
Yeah,
I think you gave some wrong signals.
and
Signals.
you were there willingly, and then afterwards you were like, I wasn't really into it. It's like, okay. And then they're like, you can't.
Yeah.
You go, look, you can't get a woman to drink before sex. Like, your woman can't be drunk. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I've raped everyone I've ever been with. I had no
I know.
idea
Like
there were these rules.
from the age of 12 to 18, I guess I was a serial rapist.
Every guy was. Not a one of us
Yeah.
were. Because what else do? You're insecure. You
No.
need the alcohol to have any confidence whatsoever because you're completely
Exactly.
intimidated by women. Yeah, and I
Uh-huh.
mean you're a teenager. And now there's this
Yeah.
real,
And
there's this real problem. And I think that QAnon thing goes obviously way too far, like you said, where they lost you, where there's
yeah,
parts. It's like you just have to, sift through it until you find the actual pieces of gold.
this
But
is it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are things in there that are terrifyingly real, and
Oh yeah.
that's what I can't wrap my head around, how we allow it to happen and it's never even our first priority.
Yeah, and it's made waves now, and that's, I guess, a good thing, because now everybody's kind of like, at least a good half of the population is awake to what's actually going on. Like, you want to talk about wokeness and the real actual wokeness, and not the bullshit wokeness that gets shuffled down our throats on a daily basis on social media and the media in general, right? And
Right.
this is new for people too, right? Like, we're coming at it from our angle, where we actually have a voice, and people are developing their own platform to kind of state their case, and this is what their beliefs are and values and whatnot. And I guess that's, I guess, hopeful in the long term of things. Like, it gives somebody a chance to express themselves in an appropriate way, and maybe them build a connection in that way, right?
I think so, and I mean, if you're not being deplatformed or people don't find you polarizing or you're not going against anything
Yeah.
too hard, because, a lot of the stuff that I do and, that you've been through, my whole story really, like, I sort of just fell into radio and I'm finishing my book and I've been working towards that, was about being sober and putting my life out and not drinking and like dealing with depression, dealing with the things that I was going through. And it's
Yeah.
hard to put that out there when you relate to so many people. A lot of people will just, they like me for that reason, that they can relate to what I'm saying. And to get a positive message out there, or any kind of message out there that's not politicized and not completely, like
Yeah.
you said, progressive and woke, it's like there's nothing progressive about when you're in the midst of drug addiction. All those stories are you doing terrible things. There's nothing woke about them.
Yeah.
It's why you chose to
No.
change your life. So if we allow everything that somebody did 15 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever to come back and haunt them, no matter what they
Yeah.
said or did, we're completely taking out the human condition and pretending that
Yeah.
somebody, like, who hasn't said horrible stuff? I've never met somebody
Oh,
who hasn't said something
no.
regrettable.
No.
So you're
No,
supposed to be held to
especially.
the standard of your worst moment? Why?
Can you imagine what the world would be like if that was the case? I know it's slowly starting to become the case, but if that's been the case from day one, the world would be a fucking terrible place, because nobody would be able to do anything and learn from any type of mistake ever,
Yeah, there'd be no
right?
mistakes to make because you just have nothing. I mean, it just wouldn't
Yeah.
exist. Human beings we're just, I don't want to say a terrible species because we're not, and that's the word that I always reach for. But we're just flawed because we're supposed to be. There's no perfection in this
Yeah.
world, and we're all trying to achieve
No.
this reality that it makes no sense. Like, all the stuff that
No.
people are shooting for makes no sense, and
Yeah.
I get equal rights. I get all of that. Like, that all makes perfect sense
Yeah.
to me. And then, but everything else is thrown on top of it. And once you get one thing, you want another, and you want another, and you want another, because that's
Yeah.
greed. Greed, lust, power, whatever it is. That's all part of being human.
Oh yeah.
It's how
Oh yeah.
much
And
you
it's
can
a
give in.
very, yeah, it's a very big part of being human in general. And like, speaking about me being an active addiction, like, I was selfish as fuck. Like, I
Yeah,
still am selfish, right?
you have to
But
be to
now
be sober.
yeah, yeah, right. And it's like, I had an incident with a friend the other day where I got a video call, and they are actively using in this video call, and I'm telling them, like, dude, I can't do this right now. I am so early in recovery, and you are triggering the shit out of me right now. And I know he probably got mad at me for hanging up and fucking going somewhere and talking about it, because I went to a meeting and I talked to my counselor about it, and my counselor reached out to him, and he's just like, why'd you say something? I was just like, dude, because I have to. it's not about you. It's about me. And that's my being selfish in my recovery. Because if I don't do that shit and I just sat there watching this person use, that's not a good thing for me at all, period.
No,
No.
no, you're doing
Like,
it. You're saying, yeah, just don't do it in front of me right now, please. And I
yeah.
understand the way that I look at it now is like, yeah, like I'm a recovering alcoholic. There's a bar right there in my basement. But I'm at the point
Yeah.
where if I want to drink, I just one day came to like other people are allowed to drink. So if somebody's at my house and they want to drink, I have it available if we have guests over.
Exactly.
My wife's allowed to have a drink. I myself, but it wasn't like that when I first got sober. But I can go to the
No.
liquor. I can go to any liquor store in any corner at any like. If I can walk 12 feet that way or drive half a mile, and I can get myself whatever I want whenever I want. It's all readily available, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
And that's something
And
that you have
that's,
to work up to. Like, and you just to tell your friends, like, look, just not like directly in front of me right now, because it sucks you
yeah.
right back into your old ways.
Oh yeah. And I told people about this yesterday. It made me jealous.
Of course.
Legitimately, like, yeah, it's just like fuck.
That's why you
Now
were
I want to
mad.
go do this. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's partially why. Yeah, but the other part is just like you have that much lack of respect for my recovery that you're willing to put me at jeopardy like that. There's that aspect of it too, right? So it was a double whammy for me, and I was just like, well, fuck. But I did what I needed to do by going to a meeting, sharing what I was going through, and reaching out to people who are part of my support. So that's I'm proud of myself that I'm making those gains and that headway in the proper direction because, like, dude, I picked up on Monday. Like, I picked
Okay.
up for the first time in a long time. And I got in my car and I got on the highway because I was coming up. I'm in Ottawa right now. And I got in the car and I had nothing. I had no tinfoil. I had no straw. I had nothing. And I got halfway here and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
It's burning a hole in my pocket. Right. And
Hmm.
I just chucked it out the window.
Good.
And yeah, like, and that's the thing. And I ended up sharing that in the meeting that night, that this is what that I didn't use. I picked up, and I was looking at it like I wasted $100. And then somebody told me yesterday, like, no, you didn't waste $100. You spent $100 to learn a very valuable lesson. And that's the way you need to look at that.
It's
So
true because if you don't learn from it and you did the right thing, and that people don't realize how hard that is to do because you have this giant devil on your shoulder and this very little angel, and the devil does not
yeah,
want you to throw that out the window. You want to feed that.
no, yeah. And the only reason why I didn't do a line of said substance is because the last time I did a line, I overdosed. So I
Yeah.
was just like, I'm not going to do that this time. I learned my
No,
lesson
and
that last time.
there you go. Yeah, and I'm sure I can, guess what it is. And even especially now with a lot of the stuff going around, I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people just in
Who are
my
overdosing.
hometown, dude, nonstop. And I mean
Mm-hmm.
dead. Like there was a kid who
Yep.
I would say I didn't know. I say kid because I just know people from high school, but grown man. And
Yeah.
I know him through friends. I don't know him personally. I know a lot of the other people, but he did drugs at a 6-year-old's birthday party, did a line of coke. It had fentanyl in it.
Jesus.
He died.
Yep.
Then a guy who did it with him later on died, who had a kid around that age. And then another guy who I
Jesus
actually
Christ.
do know went back to his apartment, OD'd, but his roommate was there and able to help him before he did. So the
Yeah.
three, the other two who did the exact same stuff, they didn't even realize the drugs metabolize differently. So it might just take
Yeah.
longer to kill you. So yeah, it took one guy 4 hours to get home before,
And then
3 hours
die.
to die.
Yeah.
And
Fuck, man. That's,
it's a terrifying thing, and it's like what's sad is I knew almost immediately where it came from because I used
yeah.
to do that same thing. I knew exactly where a guy probably got it. I asked my friend if he was still active, and he was. And it's like it's always been the same culprits, and they don't care. People ask me that, they go, well,
No.
why would you put a drug that would kill people into your drug? It makes no sense. It's like because you never run out of clientele. It doesn't matter if
Exactly.
one
That,
dies. There's a new addict every day.
yeah, and the people that aren't dying are becoming instantly addicted to that substance because let's I don't mind saying the terms on my show But I'm talking about
Yeah.
fentanyl. Yeah,
Yeah.
fentanyl is what we're talking about, and it's killing people left, right, and center. It's no longer an epidemic. You want to talk about a pandemic?
Mhm.
That's a drug that has gone into every region of the world and caused havoc. You have the carfentanil and the fentanyl. Both of them are killing people. Carfentanil is ridiculously stupid if you're ever going to do any of that. But fentanyl, you're just as stupid, just not as stupid. You know what I mean? It makes no sense. But that feeling is what, like that drug, the reason why people are addicted is because it fucking works. That's
Yes,
the
of
problem
course.
with it. It fucking works. It does what it's designed to do.
Well, it's like Special K meets heroin meets like I can't
Yeah.
imagine the euphoria that it gives you because I've only done the other
Oh,
side.
yeah.
And I was
Yeah. Yeah.
I was an ecstasy user, but I sold it more than I used it because at the time it wasn't pure MDMA. I was around
No.
with, with raver double stack pills with orange.
Yeah. I remember those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, white butterflies and all that, where you're like,
Yeah. Oh,
oh
yeah.
man, I'm chewing off my face. There must be a lot of coke in this one. I think this one's pretty speedy. Yeah, there's nothing more
Yeah.
euphoric than speed. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
And you
yeah,
just, I remember the days when that was even killing people with the ecstasy overdoses and shit. Like
at
people would just forget to
raves.
drink water.
Yeah, you just forget to keep hydrating, and then you go to a rave where they're
Yeah.
selling you a 20 ounce of Aquafina for $40.
Yeah.
And you just see these people that are just getting dragged out of their illegal parties. Nobody cares. They're not gonna,
Oh,
just throwing the
yeah.
bodies on the lawn. It's it was
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? And people don't realize what, I guess, if you weren't in those worlds back when that, like, because I was talking about people, like, I know people who use speed now, but speed now is not speed from back in the day when I was using it, because it's
right,
now you're getting it in pills and all this stuff. I'm talking speed. And that
right.
was like one of the first substances that I used intravenously. And I remember that feeling perfectly. And that's
Yeah,
like, I had this conversation with somebody that's like, that's how you know you're an addict. If you can
yes,
remember the exact moment when you did that drug and all the feelings you felt throughout it, that there, you're an addict, because
yeah.
it
It's
shouldn't be that important and you shouldn't remember it like that.
no, and you shouldn't remember it as a happy thing. And I have, my first
Exactly.
time I ever got drunk, I have that feeling of. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the first time this completely fermented whiskey hit my stomach, and then this blanket just came over me, and this warm, wonderful feeling took away every problem and every
Yep.
insecurity and everything that I had ever worried about. And I had never felt better in my life. And to this day, I still like think about that. And then I don't think about
Yep.
all the arrests and all the crash cars and all the
Nope.
tears and my dead friends and everything that ended up happening, over the years, because you just have this one moment where this thing meant so much and it's nothing. I mean, it's seriously nothing more than just poison and taking away your
Yep.
life.
And that's exactly why they call it chasing the dragon, because we're all just chasing that very first time, and there's no way that we ever get it again. And
Ever.
that's what I'm glad I'm aware of that now. You know what I mean? That's what stops me from going back out there, because it's never going to be like it was. Because now I can't use like that. I can't use on the weekends. It doesn't become a weekend thing. It becomes, oh, I'm going to throw everything out. I'm not going to I'm not going to record a podcast. I'm not going to go back to school. I won't have a girlfriend. I won't have kids. I won't have all these things, these goals that I have set for myself all go away if I go back out. And that's right now what helps keep me sober and on track, because like it's very, very tempting to go back out, especially when I'm going through shit. But every day I try and remind myself to just kind of focus on what's going on now, and just go with the flow of things, which is why when we were talking before on Twitter and you're just like, hey, I gotta do something, I was just like, okay, cool, right? Because it's, hey, there's no reason for me to get angry about it. You're a busy guy. You're a professional stand-up. You're on a national show where everybody is watching. So you're a busy person. Why would I get angry at that? There's no reason for me to be angry. But old me would have looked at it as a slight. You know what I mean?
Right. And I
Yeah.
realized that because being an addict, that's why I was like, hey, let me just see if I can push this an hour. Because it's like you always want people to know I get it. It's not a disrespect thing. It just
Yeah.
this thing pops up and it's like I have to do this. Give me a moment. And there are people who you
Yeah.
talk to and they get furious. And you're like, look, man, this
Yeah.
happens to me on my show. And not one time has anybody called on my show and said, hey man, can I just move to next week? Where I'm like, you son of a bitch. Where I'm sure at one point, I remember getting mad that my friend wouldn't drink beer with me when he had got out of recovery.
Yeah.
So
Oh
that's
yeah.
how completely insensitive I've been to other people and their needs in a moment. And it's good to
Oh
call that
yeah.
out on yourself and put yourself into check.
Oh yeah. Oh, I appreciate this conversation, Dave. It's meant a lot to me. Like
Oh,
we've had
dude.
some good conversation here, man.
Yes, I appreciate you having me on. And like, dude, just like stay, I know it's so cliche, but it's the only thing that works is like take it by every second, every minute, every hour, 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
It's always the take it one
Oh
day at
yeah.
a time. And it's
Yeah.
so cliche, but it's the only thing that actually works.
That's my struggle right now. It's just I gotta get used to being the most cliche person in the room, and then
Right.
that's what'll keep me sober.
Dude, I know it's the worst. It's like it's such a hard feeling, but the advantages that you'll have because if you can control this, it sounds crazy, but if you can control this, you can
Yeah.
control you can control your destiny and where you go and what your life could be and the meaning that it could have. But if you can't control this, you're never going to be able to control yourself just enough to receive anything good. And that might sound corny, but I figured that out one day where it's like, if I can't even stop myself from hurting myself, how am I going to let anything positive into my life?
That's the thing, right? And it's with me. I was tired, like the whole sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yeah.
like that cliche one, and
That cliche.
like,
Yep.
and I remember being just like, I'm done. I can't live like this anymore. I've used for 20 some odd years. There wasn't a single day where I wasn't either stoned, high, wasted, or tweaking in some way, shape, or form. But
Yeah,
now I don't have to deal with that.
yeah, you have that moment where I guess you realize that and fortunately for me, I didn't quite. I was about 27, but I ended up it was like 33, and that was 20 years. So
Mm-hmm.
that I had started using weed, 20 years since I had used weed since I was 13, right? So then I
Mm-hmm.
realized I had been using way more in the time that I was on the planet than I didn't. That's a scary realization
Yeah.
to go. I've been fucked up more than I'm sober through this entire life. That's a
Yep.
weird feeling.
Same here right now. I'm 34 in December, and I've
Right.
used for 22 years.
Right.
Like that is
You've
ridiculous to think
you
of it.
you've only had 12 years that were a developing
Yeah.
version of you, and then you went after and destroyed your developing, or worked on destroying your
Yeah. Oh
developing
yeah.
brain, which
Oh
I've
yeah.
talked to my doctor about too. It's like, yeah, what a good prime time to do 400 hits of acid was when you're 15 and you're trying to
Oh yeah. The
learn
best life decision ever.
ever. Smoke 3 packs a day. Why not, Dave? You're 5'6", you'll grow.
All right, Dave. I appreciate this, man. It was a great conversation. Well, let's talk about anything you got coming up.
People can just go to davelandau.com /tour is where I'll be touring. And the Anthony Cumia show with Dave Landau is on Compound Media. They can subscribe on compoundmedia.com, where there's also I believe there's a discount code right now. So that'll get you 20%.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think that it's a
Awesome.
20% off. It's like Cumia 1, but it'll say right on the site. So
awesome. And if anybody, I'll put the link in the description when I post this on YouTube. So everybody check out Dave and Anthony at Compound Media and the myriad of shows that they've got over there, and check out Dave on tour. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you, man. Have a good day. And
All right.
stay sober, my friend.